It lets us know what it was worth to him and what it cost him to die on the cross. Um,
All right, we're back. Welcome to the weekend recap for Church 520. Yeah, it was a good weekend. Fantastical weekend, actually. Was the weekend before Easter. So
Sunday.
yes, it was Palm Sunday, but we did not
Palm Sunday.
look at the entrance of him into Jerusalem,
No.
of Jesus.
No, we did not.
Wow. But we actually took a look at the cross because we're not doing a Good Friday service. So instead of looking at the entrance of the king into Jerusalem, we instead looked at the different accounts of the cross in the different gospels and how they all line up. Maybe there are some differences between them and whatnot. So, yeah. So with that, we did look at all four accounts in the
Yes.
gospels.
Matthew,
right?
Mark, Luke, and John,
Yep.
if you're not familiar.
And we noticed some good things. Some different things. One, there have been a lot of times where I have heard sermons about Simon, not Simon Peter, not his disciple, but this guy named Simon, and about how he helped carry the cross for
Oh,
Jesus.
Simon the Onion.
Not
The
Simon
Cyrenian.
Cyrenian. Not onion.
Simon the Onion.
No. Anyway, about how he helped out, and it was so great that he helped out. He helped Jesus bear his cross, and this, that, and the other.
Did you always hear that, like, he offered?
No, just that he did.
Just that he did. Not whether he was told to or asked to or
Right.
he chose, just that it happened.
That it happened. And I don't know that he was asked to or if it was said that he was asked to, but it was always painted in the light of this guy did this thing to help out this guy who had already been whipped and beaten and couldn't carry the thing. Mm-hmm. Well, if you actually look at the Gospels, it is worded that he was compelled by the soldiers to carry the cross, which means he was told to and forced to carry the cross, not that it was out of the benevolence of his heart that he was carrying this thing.
No, they said, "Hey, you're gonna carry this," because he's.
It was probably actually more forceful than that. Just
Hey, you. Go
Yeah.
ahead and carry this.
so, now, all of them say something about Simon except for John. John doesn't say anything about Simon carrying the cross. It just that the cross was carried to this place, right? And we find out that it was carried to Golgotha. We actually have a church in the area that is named that, which why I don't know why you would want to be named after a hill that somebody was killed on.
Maybe to remember.
Maybe it just seems like
It feels very like Catholic-esque how they have Jesus on the cross. Still.
right.
And like, I understand that you want to celebrate what he did, but if he didn't raise again, like, then he was just a guy that died on the cross. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, so from that point of view, like, oh, well, we want to honor what he did for us. Okay.
Right.
But, like, that's great, but he's no better than any of the
Right.
either of the other guys on the other side of him if he didn't then 3 days later come back.
Right. Well, and the other part of it is there we've talked about this quite a few times. They're focusing on the sin and the part that put them there, not
Yeah.
the identity that Christ gives them afterwards,
Correct.
which would be even more honoring
Right.
if they were to focus on that and actually do the things that he would have them do in this day and age. But that's another lesson for another day. So, and you mentioned it. He was crucified with two other criminals
Yep.
there. Actually, one mocked him. The other one actually acknowledged who he was,
Yeah.
which was kind of interesting.
Man, he was like, "Hey, dude, simmer down." And he was like, "I'm not gonna." And he was like, "Don't listen to this guy. Please remember me when you go to your father." And he's like, "You're gonna be with me in paradise today."
Right. So, which is really cool. And we have kind of, it's really cool also that each account shows there weren't just, it wasn't just the soldiers mocking him. It wasn't just the religious leaders mocking him. It was also passerbys and just randos
Yeah.
that were out there. Like, this was a public spectacle.
Yeah. It reminds me of like when you see movies of like hangings and stuff, and people would bring their kids. And it was like this whole thing. Everybody
them
was
chanting,
excited
like-
for hangings.
Yeah. It was their TV. Like, not to make light of the whole thing
Yeah,
or whatever.
it was unfortunately it was their
It was their form of entertainment. It goes along with, because this is during the Roman Empire, right? So during that, you have the Colosseum and everything, and what they were doing in the Colosseum was having gladiators fight lions and gladiators fight to the death, and the various things that they were doing. And then you also had a governor that was deciding if that person was going to die or not. And that's what people, like, that was their entertainment.
I just don't get that.
You know,
I have a hard time when somebody's in pain, even if it's someone that has wronged me greatly. I still don't want somebody else to be in pain.
right.
And that's just very hard for me. So the fact that you would bring your kids, or the fact that people were coming to watch a crucifixion, you know, I just imagine there's like a peanuts, popcorn, manna, get your manna here.
Right.
In the crowd, just, you know,
Water, wine.
wine.
Yeah. No, but for sure, that was their sport. That
that's-
was their entertainment. That's,
Like that.
it was very brutal. It was bad. Like,
Well, in something,
the world is so much better in that aspect today.
yeah. Well, and
That
it
sport
was.
is not like life and death.
I mean, you have to remember, it was also like the day before, the day of preparation, right? And so it was before Sabbath, before Passover.
Yep.
And so a lot of people were coming into the city
Yes.
for that as well.
Right. Because even Simon, it says Simon was coming out of the country. He was
Yeah.
traveling.
I've heard that he came with his two sons or something like that. And
I don't remember. I don't have the text right in front of me.
I didn't read that in my section. I think we had Luke. We split up into
Yeah, so
groups.
We split up
And then-
everybody and then had each group
Give a little
go over the
synopsis.
text and find out like who, what, when, where, why, what was going on, who were the key players,
Yeah.
what happened in each account. And then we came back together and had each group give a synopsis and then kind of compare and contrast each account.
Right.
So maybe that should have been said before, but now it's been said.
We looked at all of them. We said that before.
Yes.
We split up and
But
dug into
the
each
method
of
on
them.
how we did it wasn't said. Anyway.
But yeah, no, I had heard, maybe as a kid, maybe it was in one of the flannelgrams. You
Is
know
that why
what
you like flannel
is?
so much?
It's flannel, and then there's like the little paper pictures, and then on the back it's like flannel, and you like put them up onto the thing and it sticks, and so you build a scene with it. In like Sunday school as a kid, and I remember a Simon and two kids. So somewhere in one of these, it must say it.
I'm pretty sure it says something possibly about it in John.
Excuse me.
No, not John. One of the other ones, but I can't say for sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I thought he was just coming to do it, and then on his way in, it was just like, oh, what's going on? And then they're like, you carry this.
Right.
And he was like, okay.
Right. And it's not like you can just say, no, Roman government.
No, I'm actually fine. Here with my boys. We're taking like a little Passover vacay, if you will. We're going to get some flatbread pizzas, and we're just going to hunker down.
So stop harshing my mallow, bro.
Yeah. They were like, no, you're going to carry this. Yeah. So it doesn't really say where he was on the side of believing Jesus was the Messiah.
No,
or if he was there to watch it, or if he was just there hanging out to get some flatbread pizza from the city.
It literally just says that he was compelled to carry it, and it was carried.
Yeah.
Right. So, other cool, like, other things that we saw, was that the religious leaders were mocking his deity and who he was saying he was. We saw passersby that were mocking the fact that he was saying that he was going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, but he couldn't even get himself off the cross.
Right.
And
yeah, a lot of them were a lot of that kind of stuff.
Right. And then you had the soldiers mocking the fact that, he says he's a king, but he can't even get himself off this cross.
Yeah.
So.
That's also what the dude said next to him. The criminal next to him said. He's like,
Yep.
And the other guy's like, bro, chill.
Chill, bro. But anyway, we also see some things like we have to remember that each author was different, a different person, right? And we're writing their books with a different goal in what they were writing, right? It's not that they were making up a fictional story, but that they each had a goal. Like even John says that I'm writing this so that you may believe that Jesus was who he said he is, and that he was deity, and that he was the Son of God.
Right.
Right.
And Luke is a doctor, so he's going to come at it from a more like clinical and body, and he's gonna be like, okay, in the forceps.
It's just like each person's going to see things maybe a little bit differently, but everything's going to line up. And you even see that a little bit in the fact that things that they say Jesus says on the cross, some of them have some extras, and some of them have some little difference, but it doesn't mean each one's wrong. It just means that they recorded something different.
Right.
Right. So,
I mean, it makes more sense because if you were to hear like 4 people tell the same story, the same account, and it sounds exactly the same, you're like, okay.
Oh, it's rehearsed.
You worked on that beforehand. So, yeah.
The fact that it has their own little bent and their own little flair, so to speak, on it.
Their flavor based on who they are as a human.
Right. Lends to the authenticity of it.
Well, it's like their lens, like what was important to pick out. Even when we were discussing all of these, when we were split up into 4 groups, it was clear that you could see what the focus was on between the group who my mom is like a scientist and all of those kinds, like she's just very like those are the things that she just gravitates towards in like speaking on
sciencey analytical mind. Yep.
And so those are the things that she was like bent towards about pulling out of the story. And so like even in the retelling of the stories, even in the retelling of the historical accounts, you can see the bend in who people are and like their personality. So you definitely could tell personality in my group,
Well, yeah,
obviously.
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 So, there's something that was in one of them that was not in the other ones. Do you remember what it was?
The not zombies. Is that what you're talking about?
Because all of them mention the veil being torn in two, right?
Who are the not zombies? I think that was Ben's group, Celine's group. Didn't they talk about the not zombies?
No, that was your mom and Lachlan. Because
Oh,
they
they
had
had?
Matthew.
Oh, they had the not zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Matthew
I sure we
records
talked
the
about it
fact
a lot.
that there was an earthquake and rocks were split open and even graves were open, and those that had fallen asleep beforehand were actually resurrected. So not a zombie.
Yes,
They're
that's why I
not
said
the
not
living
zombie.
dead. They're fully
They're living,
back
living.
alive to
Living,
go
living.
give account. And
Can you imagine dying beforehand? Everything happens, and then you wake up, and you're like, "Oh, I missed the whole thing." Except that they're awake for the resurrection. They get to experience, like, well, I guess they kind of would have to believe at that point, right? Like
I would assume so.
they were dead and then alive. So
Well, they would be believing in the fact that Jesus is the Messiah because, well, they went from believing that what God had said was, I would assume, and then resurrected.
yeah,
That
they'd be like, "Well, there's some proof."
right. That's just my take. That's from the book of speculations.
Second
'Cause
speculation.
we don't know for sure. It doesn't actually say, but we
That's
do
true.
know that they went in and talked to the religious leaders afterwards.
I would assume that they would have to, just as like a thing of like the law.
Right.
Anytime that you were cleansed, you had to go to the religious leaders, and then they had to say like, "Yes, you are good to go." So I'm assuming when they're like, "So we were dead." They're like,
Right.
"Hey, okay, you're good to go." I just little rabbit trail. What? Can you imagine? Like, let's say you passed, and then you came back, and you're like, "So," I'm like, "Well, I redecorated the house."
Yeah, that may be sad for us.
Why?
I'd be like, why is there purple everywhere?
Not purple. It would not be purple. It would look like a bohemian cottage.
Like, oh, that's a choice.
Yeah, and you're like, look at this. There's a swing in the ceiling.
Not that I've
That's how I
ever,
choose.
not that I've ever said anything about the way you decorate. That's just for funny.
Yeah. No, he doesn't care.
Nope. As long as I got a place to lay my head and you're beside me, I don't care.
Oh, honey, you're so sweet.
But yeah, so oh, you really derailed my choo-choo.
I'm sorry,
here.
the rabbit went, and
Yeah.
I followed.
So
What else?
all of them
Is the
talk
same or
about
different?
Jesus being put in the tomb by Joseph, but John, who, like we said a few minutes ago, was making sure to write it to where we knew that Jesus was the Son of God and deity. What happened in John chapter 3? Do you remember? Who came and talked to...
Nicodemus
right.
was like, "Hey, bro,
Nicodemus came and talked
what
to...
do I do to inherit the kingdom of God? Like, how do I do this thing with you?"
Right. Because,
So
I
told
mean,
him,
he was...
"Hey."
he was a religious leader
Yeah.
and like wasn't necessarily trying to like put his questioning on blast, right? And
Yeah, he
actually
came
went
in
to
secret.
Jesus at night. And then we see at the end of John, not only is Joseph preparing the body of Jesus for burial, but also Nicodemus comes along,
Yeah.
brings some stuff, and actually helps.
Yeah, they put on all the oils and spices to make him tasty.
No. Nobody's tasting Nobody's
The
cannibalizing.
Colonel. 31 special spices.
13?
13 special spices and
And herbs.
flavors. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No, just probably probably the frankincense and the myrrh.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that he was given as a child is also used for
Burial.
burial. So, if you didn't know,
Now
it
you
was
do.
a little nod to the future to say like, hey, you're gonna need these later, guys. So not Joseph, his father. That's not the Joseph that did the tomb.
No.
It was a fresh tomb,
It was.
super fresh. It was hewn out of a stone,
And
so-
never used.
and it was fresh.
Not gently used by the next guy.
No, it was not a thrift store find.
Nope.
So yeah, and then he smelled delish.
I wouldn't say delish.
Frankincense and myrrh smell delish.
Okay, but you also have all of the body smells of like
Didn't
death.
it say that he did not show any decay? So he would not have any death.
You still have it's not decay, but you still have things that happen to your body when you die.
Yeah, but
Like
they washed him.
things evacuate.
Yeah, but this says they washed him.
There's still going to
Well,
be
and
there's
there
still
was,
going to be a
like,
lingering
a
smell.
slice in his side where they they poked him and they sliced his side and blood and water mingled.
It came out, yes.
Well, it came together. It was on the outside from
Yes.
the inside. But I'm saying like after they clean him and everything, then
There's
I'm
still going to be
sure
a
they-
lingering smell. There always is.
like old people's houses,
Yeah. Like funeral homes always have a certain smell.
like mothballs and stuff, and then also potpourri. Maybe we'll ask him when we get there. Question number
I
one.
don't think we're going to care.
I'm not gonna care. I'm not gonna care at all.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm
we're
gonna
going
like,
to care, so
look
it's
at
not
you
going to
walking
matter.
around on your feet. Good for you, bud. I love you.
Yeah, I'll say
It's probably not going to be a lot of that either. I'm going to probably just be crying. Be like, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love you so much.
all right.
Like that.
So we talked about a lot of details this weekend about around the cross and whatnot. So why is it important that we know those details?
To know that it's real. That it really happened. That it was an event in history. And that if we need to know that the cross was real so that next week when we talk about the resurrection, that is less it's more believable because we know what led up to it. It lets us know what it was worth to him and what it cost him to die on the cross. What it really happened when he took our sin, when he brings us grace, when he brings us salvation, I'm speaking like in a week's time. He already did it, so it's already available for you. DM me if you need some info. But it allows us to kind of experience a tiny portion of what happened, of what it cost, of what it cost Jesus, and in return, the gift that is given to us.
Right. I don't know necessarily experience, but it definitely lets us get an idea, a grasp on what it cost him.
Just not
how-
like an active experience, but like get an idea, I guess.
It also shows us that across multiple author, it all lines up together,
Yeah.
which is good, right?
Yeah.
Helps prove authenticity.
Yeah.
It also shows us that what the prophet said centuries before was correct. Like Isaiah 53 was
Right.
written 20 years into the 6th century BC. So a long time before Jesus ever went to the cross or came to earth or any of that. And he wrote the whole suffering servant passage and just how much it lines up. And the fact that also the two criminals' bones were broken
Yeah.
because it was getting close to being Passover. But yet, because Jesus had already died, they didn't break his bones. They pierced him with a spear, which fulfills earlier prophecy.
Right.
So, yeah, and like you said, it just informs us what it cost Jesus in order to provide a way for us to have a relationship with him and the Father.
Yeah.
So, it was a great weekend.
Yeah.
We got to see just the sheer magnitude of what the cross meant and what victory looks like this coming week with the resurrection,
Yeah.
because it's not over yet.
It's not.
So, yeah. And though Jesus was not tasty, we did have tasty food.
Yeah. We had soup and bread.
Soup.
Yep. I baked quite a bit of bread, different kinds. And
Homemade
then
bread.
and then we had broccoli and cheese soup with bacon. That was delish.
That was really good.
We had strawberries,
And some salads.
and some potato salad,
Yeah.
and some
Chips.
lettucey salad, and
Oh, your mom made some green beans and bacon and onions.
yes,
That was so good.
that was delish. Yeah, and then we had some dessert bread that I had made.
Yeah.
This
Curry cinnamon
like-
rolls.
Middle Eastern cinnamon rolls. I don't know what to call them yet.
They're curry cinnamon rolls. That's
Yeah.
what I would just call them.
But if you say curry cinnamon rolls, I feel like people will think it's a lot of curry. Like if I were to say, "Oh yeah, curry cinnamon,"
Hey,
they're like,
it's the flavor in there.
it's in there, but it also has cinnamon and
Walnuts.
dates and
the other ones.
pecans.
Yep, those.
So it was delish.
Fantastic little
Little pull apart
rolls.
thing.
Yeah. But if you're wondering, this week we're gonna make a lamb.
A lamb and a ham.
Lamb and a ham.
Lamb and a ham.
So
That's like Old Testament, New Testament
yeah, it is.
in one Sunday.
Anyway, so if you're intrigued to come, comment and we'll get you the details about coming on Sunday about 4. And then we'll have dinner afterwards. And
Lamb and ham.
also comment below what it means to you to remember the cross. How has it affected you? How has it affected your life? Also hit that like button, subscribe. We keep doing these. You keep seeing our faces and dancing, evidently. Anyway, until next week. Bye.
Bye.